All right, welcome back to Chasing Winners Saturday edition. As you can see, I have a bit of a different background this week because we're filming this at halftime of the NFL kickoff game, and I refuse to leave my couch. So JP, how are we feeling today?
We're feeling good. Tough, tough start for me for this podcast, and well, not for the podcast itself, but for my record and our pick'em. Um, and I'm not loving the start of this NFL game. Um, but bonus for me is that my normal recording place is on my couch, so I don't have to move.
Yeah, mine's normally at a desk, which has zero view of a TV, so that's a big problem. And I'm loving how this started for me too. What are the records here? Um, I just want you to read them because you're the loser over here.
You could say because I put in the work to keep the stats and all that, but
Yeah, that's a part of it too.
you just go right to the loser part. Through 2 weeks now, or through week one and week zero, Kyle is 13-7 on his picks overall, and I'm 8-12 on my picks overall. But for the purposes of the podcast, we're both 4-2. So that's really what counts here when we're talking about that. And we both lost our best bet, just in very different ways last week.
Yeah, I mean, I thought it was going so well for the first half there. Clemson looked awful. It was exactly what I thought. And then all of a sudden they just turned competent again, which was not a good sign. In our chat between JP and I was tilting quite a bit.
Kyle was
So
not happy.
so
Yeah, it
yeah,
was we both my pick did not start out very well, and it didn't get better from there. Um, but it was also while I was at the game. I was at the Baylor game, so I didn't really care about BYU going up 38-0 on USF. Um, and then Kyle and I both bet against each other's best bets this week, so maybe that's the key is just to fade all of our best bets.
definitely. So all right, let's get into the games. The first one, the big noon Saturday, Alabama in a rare road non-conference game going to Texas. Both teams dominated inferior opposition last week. JP, how do you think this one's going to go?
Yeah, both teams dominated inferior competition, but I don't think either one. You say dominated. I don't know if it was to the level of other teams. It wasn't to the level that Georgia beat Oregon. Neither of them were. I wasn't impressed with the way Texas looked from the little I saw of it. Um, and I bet this as soon as it came out. I took Alabama minus 20, and I expected it to go up higher. It hasn't, which worries me a little bit that sharps are potentially putting money on Texas. Um, but in this game, it just feels like it's Texas's time to think they're back again, and they will never be back. So they have to lose this game, and it's going to be embarrassing. So I'm on Alabama minus 20.
Yeah, it's funny. Somebody I work with actually said today that the hope for Texas is to not lose by 30 at home. Just just think about how ridiculous that is for a program that once was as high as Texas was. The goal is to not lose by 30. So yeah, with that case, I'm on Bama minus 20 as well. I think that one will be fairly straightforward. Fingers crossed. I probably just jinxed us.
Yeah, don't do that. But I did see some idiot fan on Twitter said, you know, if we win this game, we being Texas, you know, don't rush the field because we're expected to win this game. This is a game we should win. So don't rush the field if we beat Bama. And I was like, did you watch the 5-7 team last year? This is not a game that you think you should win. So rush the field against Bama.
You're 20-point underdogs and you're unranked. Of course you're going to rush the field against Bama.
Yeah,
What's this guy talking about?
made
All
no
right.
sense.
So moving on to the next game here, we got Pitt at home against Tennessee. Pitt is a Tennessee are 6.5 point favorites. Of course, Pitt's coming off that incredibly emotional, crazy backyard brawl win. Um, Tennessee's coming off of dominating Ball State. So what do you think is gonna happen here?
To me, I mean, they beat West Virginia and they didn't cover, but neither team in that game looked great. Pitt didn't look like the number 17 team in the country, and West Virginia was 6-6 last year, or 6-6 because they lost a bowl game in Minnesota. I don't think either team in that game is going to be a top 20 team by the end of the season. I don't think Pitt's that great, and Tennessee isn't coming off of, like you said, an emotional home win in week 1. I think it's a great letdown spot there, and I'm on Tennessee. What we say the line was earlier, 6.5. Tennessee minus 6.5 in this game.
Yeah, so I am actually, as much shit as I constantly talk about Pitt, say they're not very good, that I think 6.5 is a little too much here. The thing is, I'm not that high on Tennessee either. So I'm going Pitt plus 6.5 at home. I think it'll still be super emotional crowd riding the high off that big win. Possible letdown spot. I know. I think they lose the game by 3 actually, which will be hilarious. If Pitt finally fills up their stadium again, gets a consistent run going. I hate Pitt, by the way. And then just shit the bed and lose in a close one, and then nobody comes back again.
This is another game that you know who you should take in this game, because it's another one where Kyle is talking about an ACC team, and he says, they're just not very good, but he still bets on them because he's still going to take Pitt the same way he took UNC last week after he tells me the week before, oh, UNC is terrible. So I take App State, and he takes UNC, and UNC wins the game. So Pitt's definitely the right side here.
Well, we'll see. We'll see if that streak continues of bad ACC teams covering. But yeah. So next we got Florida versus Kentucky at the Swamp. So the line that we had earlier, we took these lines Thursday morning. Florida were a 5.5-point favorite coming off that big win against Utah. Moving all the way up to number 12 from unranked, which is pretty unprecedented territory there.
Yeah, that's a big jump.
Kentucky beat Miami of Ohio pretty handily. So, JP, what are we thinking?
It's kind of along the same lines for me as the game we just talked about. It's another team at home, just had a huge home win, emotional, last 4 or 5 minute victory. This one was last 10-second victory, from what I could tell. Again, another game that I was following from my phone. But I like Kentucky plus 5.5 here. I like them to come in and maybe not win the game, but definitely keep it close enough where Florida's going to need that kind of late emotional thing again.
Yeah, Kentucky always seems to have Florida's number too, which is in recent years at least, which is interesting. It's always either close but it seems like I'm riding all of the potential letdown spots here because we have another one. I mean, I think Florida looked great. They beat who I think is one of the best teams in the country. I know last minute, Anthony Richardson running all over the place. Dealing a bit as well. I'm going with Florida minus 5.5 here. I think they win this game by about a touchdown or 10, maybe one of 7 or 10. We'll see. But Kentucky always gives them problems too. I mean, it could really go either way, but I'm leaning the Florida side here. And then next game here we get USC's first real moment in the spotlight here under Lincoln Riley, and on the Saturday primetime game, ABC against away at Stanford. So USC did not lose to food last week. They beat Rice, thankfully, because everybody knows you cannot lose to food. And And Stanford also got a win last week, beat Colgate. You can't lose to Toothpaste either.
Yeah, that might be worse.
They played food and toothpaste.
Yeah.
So what do you obviously big game with the first USC spotlight this year, probably many. So what are you thinking?
Yeah, to me this is a game that USC needs to win to live up to those expectations. It's kind of the same reason I picked Buffalo on the NFL pod for week 1. That just went well there because the Rams went 3-0 quickly. USC needs to win this game to live up to the expectations everybody put on them at the start of the season, and just winning this one close against a Stanford team that isn't going to do much this year according to anybody important, would not be cutting it for that. So they look good last week. Obviously, the offense was clicking against Rice. I think 66 points or something like that. So I'm going to have to go USC minus 8.5. I don't love the number. I'm hoping that comes down a little maybe, but they should win this game by 2 scores.
Yeah, I'm on USC 2.5. I mean 8.5 too. But an interesting factor here. You probably saw it in the Big 12 with Texas and Oklahoma last year. Every game where these teams play USC and UCLA is going to be a hate-filled, the other team's Super Bowl, essentially trying to kick their asses on the way out. But I just don't think Stanford's good enough to pull that off here. So I'm on USC minus 8.5.
Yeah, it is interesting to me just thinking about that now because Oklahoma and Texas leaving and like the fan reaction to it, because those 2 schools have so many fans in real life and on Twitter and everywhere, that it turns into a lot of, back and forth kind of like that. I don't know if you'll see the same kind of thing from USC and UCLA, just because, especially if the Big 12 manages to snag those schools that it should, Utah, Arizona schools, and Colorado. If the Pac-12 collapses like that, then I don't think you'll see that kind of we hate USC and UCLA because, well, all these schools need to just do what's best for them, and we can't really fault them for that anymore because now we need to go find somewhere to go. So I wonder if the relative lack of fans at those schools and then potentially the demise of the Pac-12 leads into that a little bit.
You would be surprised how many USC and UCLA fans are on the West Coast, though.
Really?
None of us are there, so we don't see it. My mom grew up out there. She went to USC, so it's kind of crazy. At least between them two, I don't know if the other schools necessarily have as many fans or at least in the area, definitely.
They just have fans that don't go to the games?
Yes.
Did you see the pictures of those stadiums?
They have fair weather fans. It's like so to compare, to put my school down a little bit, it was like Miami in like 2014, 2015 under Al Golden type.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, looking at those pictures of those stadiums, and I saw people complaining, oh, it was 100 degrees. We can't go to a football game in 100 degrees and stand in the sun. I was like, yes, you can, because that's what you do.
Yeah, exactly. That's September football.
That's what I did freshman year for the team coming off of a 1-11 season under Matt Rule. And their second season, they went 6-6. And they played Duke. They lost to Duke that year.
Oh, God.
And there was, I saw
Daniel Jones, though, right?
I think so. But obviously, we know he's not very good. But
beat Miami too.
Yeah, I saw at least 5 students pass out and get carted out from the heat. That was the only game that had like free water stations. Usually they didn't have that. They just made you buy water. But our students are still there. I stayed. I think my friends made me go back at halftime. But I would have stayed the whole game because that's just what you do.
All right, we're both starting to rant a little bit on the whole
Who
fan.
cares? It's worth it.
I know. So, but I just wanted to move on to the game that you are definitely going to rant on more than anything. So, your Baylor Bears away in Provo against BYU. I'm just going to get my pick out of the way. I'm on BYU. I think the line we had was minus BYU
Three.
-3. So I'm just going to hand it over to you for this one.
I say this as someone who has already bet Baylor. It was 3.5 a couple days ago. I had bought the hook to 4. I took Baylor money line. I'm now on the over to. I'm with Big Cat's game of the year.
The
I
Queen,
haven't.
the Queen Elizabeth Memorial Game of the year.
Yes, now it is
Okay.
the Queen Elizabeth Memorial Game of the Year. I saw they did something at halftime for this NFL game for it too. I wasn't paying attention though.
No.
I haven't had, and it feels like it's been a long time, but it hasn't because it was last November. I haven't had a game like this where I'm so looking forward to it, and I'm so terrified. I'm dreading this game, and I'm looking forward to it, and it hasn't happened since the Oklahoma game last year. Um, this is the test. This is the opening test where it feels like this shouldn't be the line. It feels like we should be 1 point underdogs, close to a pick 'em. And I mean, you pointed out before it's the home field advantage, but the number 9 team in the country on the road against another ranked team, but not close to 9. And our strength has always been this season everyone knew going in, it's the offensive and defensive lines, top 3 in the country on both sides. And the strength of BYU is definitely not the trenches. They're going to get beat in the trenches. And so it seems like that should be an easy victory for us in the trenches, run the ball, grind it out. We will not have an issue there. And yet, it seems like the entire world is on BYU. I watched the Pick'em Pod. Everyone was on BYU. I looked through. I Googled. I did research. I'm trying to look for people's predictions, and I think I found 9 or 10 different predictions, and all but 2 were on BYU. It feels like it should be a trap game. It feels like Baylor's the trap here because of that line, and Vegas wants people to take Baylor. But given that everyone seems to be on BYU, that gives me a little faith. Come on, Singletary. That gives me a little faith that it's not a trap. BYU's the trap. And so I've backed myself into this corner where I had a reason for us not to win because it's a trap game, and now it's not a trap game. I'm on Baylor +3. I'm on Baylor +4. I'm on Baylor money line. I'm on the over. We have to win this game because if we lose this game, we might not. If we win this game, then I really think that we can have a touchdown, Mackenzie. I think that we can make the CFP. I do. And I know that Brian's on our team total under, and people don't think we're going to be as good this year. If we win this game, we have a chance to do that. If we don't, I don't think we have that chance because we're not going to go through Oklahoma State, and Texas without a loss. So I think this game means more to us because BYU doesn't have that type of season ahead of them because they don't have the schedule to do it. And I think Baylor's going to take this out and make me – they're not going to make it easy because I'm going to start at 9:15 and I'm going to be up until 1:30 in the morning. And I'm going to sit on my couch from 11 a.m. to 9:15 just waiting for this game, dreading this game, waiting for this game. I'm going to have a terrible Saturday. I'm going to spend 14 hours on the couch.
By the way, BYU, if they pull off a run, does have the schedule to do it. I'm looking at their schedule right now. They play you guys on the road at Oregon. Isn't as impressive anymore, but still on the road at Notre Dame, home against Arkansas. So they're away at Boise State.
Okay, Yes, true. I said that without looking at their schedule at all. Either they wouldn't have the schedule, or given those games, the likelihood of them pulling off a win against Oregon, a win against Notre Dame, and a win against Arkansas, stringing all those and a win against Baylor, doing all those together, yes, they can make the CFP. The likelihood that they do all of those things is so unlikely, and if they lose just one of those games, they're not making it.
About 0.07%.
Yeah.
But yeah, so you obviously know where JP's on there. I'm on the BYU side with it seems like everybody else in the world. So it's probably the reverse trap here. I'm probably getting fleeced, but we'll see what happens Saturday at around 2 a.m. Eastern. See who I'm going to be up even later than you are.
Yeah, I suppose that's a thing. I just can't. I said on the NFL pod, having the Baylor game end 14 hours before the Vikings start in the Fox game of the week is just a nightmare scenario. Absolute nightmare. And I'm going to have to go to bed, get up, go to church, and then sit. I'm going to have to sit through another slate of NFL games before I even get to watch the Vikings. I think I'm going to have to bet the Packers. I'm going to have to do that.
Disaster situation for you. So before we wrap up, so we could watch some more football here. So what's your best bet of the week outside of these 5 games that we talked about?
I wanted to put Baylor. I really did. I can't make myself do it because I can't justify it. I'm looking at Houston, Texas Tech, and really I should stop taking teams that have Baylor ties because that has not worked out for me so far. But I'm taking Texas Tech. The line I had for this is -3 at home against Houston. And it's a big game for both teams, really. Houston coming into the Big 12, I think, next year.
Yep.
And they're only laying -3. Houston is, again, this is exactly what I've done all podcast. They're coming off of that emotional victory against UTSA in 3 overtimes. That was wrapping up in the middle of our game. But and then Texas Tech had a easier win. So now Houston goes on the road to face that Big 12 opponent. I like what this is bad. I forgot his name. The head coach of Texas that used to work at Baylor. Texas Tech. Anyway, I like what he's doing there. He isn't going to be good yet. He's going to take a couple of years to get talent. Joey McGuire is his name, and but he has a good enough team to beat Houston here. So I like the Red Raiders here.
All right, so it took me until literally right now to decide what my best bet of the week is. What my best bet of the week was. I've been struggling with it all week because this week just seems like a pretty difficult week for me. I'm actually going to go Northwestern -10 against Duke.
That is a big game right there.
So it's a great game, right? 2 terrible teams.
Are you going to watch that game?
It's on FS1. It could go on a second screen. It's at noon. I'll obviously be watching. No, Miami's on. No, I'm not going to be watching.
And South Carolina, Arkansas is a better game than that.
So is Texas.
Yes, I know that.
But yeah. So I will be following this one on my phone. I just never think Duke is. Duke sometimes surprises me, but usually recently it's just been terrible over there. They're going on the road to a Northwestern team that grinded out that win in Dublin. They're pretty good in the trenches. So we all weirdly watch this team play in Dublin, which is just the most random thing ever. But they come home, they get Duke. I think they blow them out of the water.
Did they not play last week?
They didn't.
Oh, okay. Interesting. And then we do have a bet from Ryan, his best bet. We should really start telling him that he doesn't have to do a bet on one of the 5 or 6 games we cover on the podcast. But his bet was on the Baylor BYU over 53.5. So he is also with Big Cat on his Queen Elizabeth Memorial Game of the Year. Yeah, that's kind of all I got. Stafford sacked again. Good Lord.
Yikes. They've been getting to him all night.
They really have.
So that is it for us here. Hit the buttons wherever it is, like, share,
I'll
subscribe.
put a subscribe button somewhere. So.
Oh, we're getting fancy now.
Well, it's the best part is it's not actually a button. It just says subscribe. It's a screenshot I took of the button. So the picture will be right here, and you should click the button that's actually down there somewhere.
There's got to be a way to hyperlink it somehow. But
yeah, there is, but that's not. I don't get paid enough for this.
But all right, let's go and watch them. Let's go and watch some football here. Let's watch some football on Saturday. Let's watch some football on Sunday. Let's watch some football on Monday. We're back.
Right. We are back. Follow us on Twitter. Follow Ryan on Twitter. Gaming DFS tips. Yeah, good luck this week, guys. Go Bears. Stay up late and watch us take down the Cougars in the Baptists against the Mormons Part 2.
And go Canes. Watch us spank Southern Miss and cover another ridiculous spread. See you, everybody.
See you guys.